This is a video about my experiences as a relatively new eBayer. I've only started online shopping at the beginning of August, so this is almost 4 months since then, and I thought I'd like to share some advice to people who are even newer to eBay than I am. I find that eBay is a relatively good place to shop for fragrances and perfumes. As you know, buying them from a department store or even from a boutique can be rather expensive. And before long, you find that your bank account is rather drained. eBay is a great way to save money while taking a small risk in not getting authentic wares and fake perfumes. The reason why I say small risk is because as a buyer you have to be very careful about the seller's feedback, and also about whether the seller is using stock photos, that there's a likelihood that he or she may not have the authentic goods, and also to watch out for brands that are frequently the subject of fakes like Chanel, Armani and stuff like that. Okay, my area centers mostly around vintage fragrances, which means I like to go for the old stuff which can hold its value or be resold at a much higher value later on. And I did some research before I started shopping at the beginning of August, and I find that number one, you have to watch out for shipping costs, because there are some unscrupulous sellers out there who just slap on a very high shipping cost that's totally unreasonable and expect you to pay for it after the auction. So it is beholden upon you to actually ask the seller about shipping costs before you bid or even buy it now. And secondly, just be aware that it's a jungle out there, so if you don't do your research beforehand, you don't know the relative pricing of whatever you want, you can be ripped off very easily by unscrupulous and immoral sellers, because many sellers will list things at very high values which is out of proportion to what the item is really worth. So do use the advanced search option where you can click on completed listings to see what similar items sold in the past 15 days to get a rough idea of what your item is really worth, and treat it like your price guide, although there's no official price guide, so you have to come up with your own. The next point is that you have to be very good at using feedback as a weapon to protect yourself, because sometimes you get into an unfortunate situation where you have already bought the item because it is too hard to pass by due to its incredible value, and then the seller ruins everything by imposing a very high shipping cost that you just can't bear. So what you can do, if the seller either threatens to or actually files an unpaid item case against you, you can threaten negative feedback, because a lot of sellers, especially those who have been around for a long time, they protect their feedback with their life almost, because it's very important, and it pertains to what kind of fees eBay charges them. So do not be hesitant to use negative feedback to force the seller to either cancel a transaction that's unfavorable to you, or to at least force them to reconsider other cheaper shipping alternatives. The next thing is that this activity can be very draining. I know that at the peak of my shopping, around September to October, I actually spend about 6 to 8 hours every day in total browsing and looking for good deals after I had established what I felt the item's fair worth was. So it can be very time consuming but ultimately rewarding when you get the deal that you have been looking for a long time. So far in these 4 months, I've accumulated slightly over or slightly under 100 bottles, both those that have perfume and those that are empty, but more of those that have perfume. And I've been very lucky in the sense that I've been able to get some fantastic deals, and yet there are about 3 or 4 bottles that I really feel now on hindsight that I've overpaid for. But those bottles came near the beginning of my shopping experience, so I was a pretty inexperienced shopper back then. But now I can say that I'm a little bit more experienced. Of course, there's more for me to learn, and I'm just mentioning some aspects. The best bargains I find are actually obtained from sellers who do not specialize in perfumes. I got one very good deal from a toy seller, someone who sold toys for very cheap, and she didn't really know what the bottle of perfume she was selling was actually really worth, and so I just swooped in on the deal. And the thing about buy it now auctions or best offer auctions is that you shouldn't buy it now if you can make an offer. So if you think you can buy it at a better price, even though the buy now price is already very reasonable, do take that step, unless it is something that you feel that another buyer will swoop in on in no time, right? And so I've been able to get very good deals from those who are not specializing in perfumes, because those who specialize in those goods, they tend to know what is the fair value, and you end up paying a fair value or close to it, which is not really what you want. What you really want is to get a real bargain. So let me give you an example of what I mean. This is an auction that I'm showing you of a recently ended auction of a perfume that's very famous called Cabochard by the House of Grey. Okay, this is a leather chypre that is very sought after by perfume collectors, because although it is still being made today, they don't make it like they used to. The old perfume actually had something like over 6,000 floral ingredients. I think it's jasmine, and also over 200 roses for every ounce of the perfume. So these bottles typically go for very high prices. Now the one that I'm showing you now actually sold for 185 for a 1 ounce bottle that was sealed and came in a box. And that price could be considered high or low depending on your luck. So then my further point is that luck is a very important factor on whether you get a good deal or not. Now recently I just happened to stumble upon a similar listing for another bottle of the same perfume, but the seller was not very specific on the height of the bottle. So there was some ambiguity in the listing, and I know some people are eyeing this listing because someone asked, what is the ounce size, what's the fluid ounce size of this bottle, and the seller was not able to answer because she was another one who did not specialize in perfumes but rather specialized in toys. So I decided to take a chance, and I managed to secure this item for $48.80 US. I actually paid in Aussie dollars, but the equivalent at that time was $48.80. The listing that I showed you, which I didn't participate in, was for a 1 ounce bottle that was listed as 3.25 inches in height. So the bottle was around this tall, okay, and it came with a box, and that was the price, which I wouldn't say it's overly expensive, given that it is a vintage and it can no longer be found because they never make perfumes that are so concentrated anymore, and it has a restricted ingredient called oak moss, right? So they don't make this kind of perfume anymore, not even the niche houses. Now the one that I got for 48.80 compared to the one that auctioned for 185, I'm going to show it to you now, and you can compare, you know, what the deals are like. Okay, this is the one. This is a full 5 inches tall, and I measured it carefully and did a little bit of research and found that this bottle contains 100 mils of extrait de parfum, or the most concentrated form of the fragrance that I just told you about. And a 2-ounce size bottle sold in August, I believe, for $395. Now when this thing arrived, I was shocked because, as I said, the listing was ambiguous, and I had no idea that they made it in this giant size. Okay, so you can see that it contains a lot of perfume, and although it doesn't come with the box, it was sealed, and I broke the seal to establish that it was really perfume and not a con job. So I did that, and it is the real stuff, and I can tell you it is extremely rich, concentrated, and dense. So it is the vintage was reputed to be an animalic and musky perfume, and that's exactly what I got. I put some here, and it is just breathtaking in one word. And this is so big that it is like a museum piece, so I feel that it belongs in a museum. So my point here is that you have to be very lucky sometimes to get the really great deals. So keep your eyes out, because luck doesn't throw something in your lap every day. Although I found that I was very lucky in these 4 months, and I think that's about it. Just pay attention to these few points, and you may pick up other things along the way, and you can comment below my video in the comment section and share, because I am learning as well all the time, and this is just my contribution.